Hello, welcome to Music Theory Part 6. In this lesson, we will discuss secondary dominant chords and tritone substitutions. Let's get right into it. Dominant chords, as we know, function as a dissonant sound that creates the effect of a tonal center by approaching and resolving to a tonic or one chord. As you will find though, dominant chords may occur in locations within a key other than the 5. The reason for this is that the dominant chord is creating a momentary pull toward another chord or key center. The name for this momentary shift is tonicization. In fact, every chord in the diatonic chord progression except the 7 chord can be approached by a dominant chord. The following chord progression will demonstrate this. C major, A7, D minor, B7, E minor, C7, F major, D7, G major, E7, A minor, G7, C major. As you can hear, there are a series of tensions and resolutions within this chord progression that introduce notes that are not in the original key center, but still function as approaches to chords that are within the key. This is different from modulation, where you go from one key center to another key center entirely. The difference between modulation and tonicization is subtle, but tonicization tends to be more temporary and rapid, whereas modulation tends to be more lasting. The rules around which scales to use over secondary dominant chords are a bit complex, but a general rule of thumb is dominant chords resolving to minor chords tend to take altered tensions, specifically flat 9, sharp 9, and flat 13, whereas dominant chords resolving to major chords tend to take natural 9 and 13 tensions. Because altered dominant chords create an expectation of a resolution to a minor key or chord, musicians will sometimes create a deceptive resolution to major chords by altering its dominant extensions. An example of this would be G7 sharp 9 flat 13 resolving to C major 7. With secondary dominant chords covered, let's talk about tritone substitutions. Tritone substitutions, as you may have inferred from the name, have to do with the tritone interval found in the 5-7 dominant chord. The 3rd and the 7th of a chord are its most defining chord qualities. There is an interesting voice leading phenomenon that creates a chromatic or half-step voice leading in a cadence that goes like this. We know in a typical diatonic chord progression, you may find a cadence such as D minor 7, G7, C major 7, or a 2-5-1 in the key of C major. An alteration of this chord progression would be D minor 7, D flat 7, C major 7. The reason this works is because the chord tones of the flat 2 dominant 7th chord, in this case D flat 7, are enharmonically the same as the chord tones found in the 5-7 chord, in this case G7. The 3rd and 7th of G7 are B and F. The 3rd and 7th of D flat 7 are F and C flat, which is enharmonically the same as B natural. This similarity in chord tones, B to F and F to C flat, create the same tension and resolution to a tonic chord, in this case C major. There are many ways in which this can be applied, but you can basically think of it as a dominant 7 chord resolving down a half step to another chord or key. The scale that correlates to the flat 2 dominant 7th chord is Lydian dominant, which has the tensions 9, sharp 11, and 13. Because of its relativity, it is functionally the same as a 5-7 altered chord, in this case G7 sharp 9 flat 13. This means that when navigating the tritone substitution, you can either think Lydian dominant from the flat 2 or altered scale from the 5. At this point in the course, you have all the information you need to navigate jazz and sophisticated popular music. There is a final topic I would like to discuss in part 7, which will reveal how much of modern pop music derives its harmonic functions, which is called modal interchange. I congratulate you on your tenacity in working through this course up to this point. Your efforts will pay off immensely in your musical growth. I'll see you again in part 7, and in the meantime, happy practicing!